So the reason I wanted you on the podcast is because I've been watching your Instagram channel. I've been, following you since you started the Immortal Coffee brand, which was RX Coffee. And I just kind of wanted to get your view on what's going on in the world today, as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's, building business, focusing on their health, and kind of living the lifestyle that they truly enjoy. So I figured you'd be a good guest. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your journey from corporate America to entrepreneurship?
Wow. It's a long story of how to begin, but first of all, I do have a bag of coffee for you.
Awesome.
In here to give you.
It's funny because I have about this much coffee left right now. Bean.
Let me grab it for you.
Grab it for him, please. And this is the same coffee that RX Coffee was, right? But you guys rebranded?
Yeah, we still have RX Coffee too. So that's a whole nother story in regards to...
Well, coffee must be a pretty competitive industry.
There you go.
So where do you get these beans again?
We have two different Colombian coffees, two different regions of Colombia. So one, I believe, comes from Antioquia.
Is there cocaine in this?
No.
No, not this brand, right?
Not that brand.
What is that, high-octane Colombian
that's
coffee?
probably Bolivian marching powder brand. That comes from, that's a micro lot from a farm in Colombia, small family, small village. Everything's fresh roasted, as you know. So we still have the RX brand, to touch on that, like you were talking about. The Immortal brand started. That's a whole other story about trademarking issues and everything we had going on. So got caught up in a trademark case. Once I had the trademark for RX Coffee, somebody tried to cancel our trademark. And so we started the Immortal brand.
How 2020?
What's that?
How 2020 get canceled.
Oh, yeah. So that went on, got caught up. So when you think you're finally building this brand and it's great, somebody tries to come in and cancel my trademark. And then I get caught up in a trademark suit to the point it went on for 18 months or longer, where somebody's trying to cancel our federal registration for a trademark. And then the guy sues me in New York. I have to sue him in Miami to get back to right where we started, where I said, let's coexist. I won't sell in New York. You don't sell in Florida.
And that's where you guys started originally?
And it was just a waste of money and resources. And we started the Immortal brand because it's like, okay, well, that's a backup to RX Coffee. And my business partner being Matt Brown, the UFC fighter, for anybody that doesn't know, it was just
the Immortal
Matt Brown.
Yeah.
Or people say Matt the Immortal Brown, too. So
either way, he's immortal.
Yeah, 40 years old, still fighting. He's got another fight coming up this summer. So
in the UFC.
In the UFC.
Just not fighting, but in the UFC.
Yeah, in the UFC.
Yeah, he's the G.
Yeah. Second most knockouts, UFC history, most in welterweight history. I think he passed with the last fight, Thiago Alves, and I think he has actually the most fights in the welterweight division in UFC history, too.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so...
How's he do it? How's he stay competitive? Like, what's his training like?
I think with Matt, his training is he's always training. Even when you're not in camp, you're constantly just training. He trains martial arts all separately to try to get better at him. You'll still see him put on the gi. He's still doing Muay Thai, still working on boxing, general fitness. So up there, we work out at Westside Barbell a couple days a week, or he's
strength
working
training?
out his garage. Yeah, strength training. So Tom Barry kind of runs the show for Lou over there, Louis Simmons at Westside. He does programming for our fight team. So I have the honor of working out with some of our black belts and some of our fighters that we get to go over there 2 days a week. So that's taught me a lot more about strength training, and it's been really cool to meet Lou and hear some stories. I just kind of sit there and be quiet and listen to him tell stories.
Fan out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You become a fanboy.
And they got a lot of really cool equipment there and different ways of looking at things and learning about their conjugate method.
And how has that changed your training at all?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done CrossFit as much. I actually would go, I used to go once a week to, Graham Holmberg. He won the CrossFit Games 2010. He has a gym in Ohio in Hilliard.
Another stud.
Yeah, so I found him, and I texted him one day. He's like, hey, yeah, come by. We do an endurance squat every day at 11 a.m. So it's more along the lines in terms of what I want to do lifting, because I'm not big on Olympic lifting. I've hurt myself too many times not doing it properly and lack of mobility. So it's more of like endurance, but it has some weightlifting aspects to it.
Right.
So, for example, you're picking up a 150-pound sandbag, carrying it, 30 yards, 30 meters, dropping it, picking it up, carrying it back, then getting on the bike, doing 10 calories, and then you repeat that, and you get to go to the assault bike and do 12 calories, just things like that.
Yeah,
maybe
just grind out stuff.
Yeah, maybe some deadlifts mixed in, moderate weight, things like that, row, burpees, a lot of body weight stuff and pulling weight. So that's really that would help out doing that once a week. And then the west side stuff, you just crash your central nervous system, your CNS. So some days when I first got up there, I remember it was in the afternoon, and I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Telling Matt, like, I've never felt like this. He goes, welcome to West Side, bro. You're gonna
You get
feel
crushed.
Oh, you get crushed.
Literally.
So some of the things they do that's unique, what I've never done is, dragging weight on sleds. So you have just the pipe and you hook it up around your waist, and we're dragging weight, at least your body weight around the building for 400 meters. First time I got there, Tom's like, he's Irish. He's like, you got a good ticker. And I'm like, he's like, you must be a runner. And I said, yeah, I do a ton of running. I've done an ultra marathon and marathons. And he said, now go backwards. And that just floored me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used
You're
to
never using those muscles.
I'm not used to doing it. So they'll do it where you go backwards, a little bit less weight than going forwards, going sideways. And that's been really good because it works your aerobic and your anaerobic capacity. They have their ATP, their athletic training platform, where they do their belt squats, which has been a game changer a lot of the time. You're not compressing
Can
your
we
spine.
pause for a second? Can you explain to the audience what aerobic and anaerobic capacity is, like the difference?
You might be able to do a better job than me.
Well, I just wanted to see what your interpretation of it was, because it's obvious that you're training those systems, and how does that training differ for you?
So I think the best way for me to describe it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the aerobic capacity is, more cardiovascular, like if you're running, you're breathing, et cetera. Anaerobic is a combination. You're using your aerobic system, but you're moving weight. You're using your muscles more. And when your anaerobic meets your aerobic capacity, a good example of that is like the 500-meter row standard, right? You can go really hard for maybe the first 350 meters, but it's that last 150 meters when they meet and intersect that you just can't keep things going.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good definition of it. Anaerobic capacity is your ability to work in a short period of time, about a minute and a half, and then anything after about 90 seconds, you pretty much go aerobic. But what happens is if you don't train both systems, especially your aerobic system, you actually can't improve your anaerobic system as much as if you train them together. So most people think, oh, I'm going to do high intensity intervals. And while that's effective to a degree, it's the long, slow distance work that really builds the cardio, that really improves your blood capillaries, that really improves your lactic acid threshold. And I think a lot of fighters are so focused on that short, intense burst, that aerobic power training, that they don't focus on anaerobic power training. They don't focus on their aerobic base. And fighting is the most aerobic sport there is. You're always, unless you get caught in the first minute, you're always going to fight for 5 minutes. So one of the things that I do with my fighters is that I make sure we train the aerobic base and the anaerobic base. And this way we can combine the two. And a lot of people don't realize is that your aerobic system doesn't get warmed up until about 10 minutes of straight movement. So if you come into the gym and you want to do a workout and you're like, you do some mobility and you warm up for a couple minutes, you do a little dynamic warm up, your aerobic system's not warmed up. So you go and try to do open WOD, or you try to do sparring, and you're gassed because you go straight into that anaerobic power reserve, and that anaerobic power reserve, you lose it quick. And once you lose it, you don't get it back like you do your aerobic system. So your aerobic system, you can use it and then slow down, it comes back, and it comes back. That's why you can run for a long time. But have you ever wrestled and you didn't warm up and then you're gassed? You can barely walk.
Yeah, it happens to me doing with jiu-jitsu, where I'm like, I'm so gassed, like I'm not. Sometimes I'll forget to breathe. That's one reason. Yeah. But I'm just getting gassed out, and I have good cardio because.
But you just haven't warmed up the system. Yeah. So a good tip for the listeners and for you to take back up there is make sure you guys always do about 10 minutes of just steady, easy movement. It could be rowing, it could be biking, it could be a 1 mile run. Then the aerobic system is really activated. Now you can go anaerobic to anaerobic in and out of those systems. And this way you don't use all your anaerobic capacity up quickly. And when you're going in and out, that's when you can really start to see what kind of cardio you got. So you got to train both of those systems. So I'm glad that you guys in Ohio, especially your fight team and Louie and the boys, are integrating that kind of training, because as I came up as a fighter, I noticed that a lot of people were not including aerobic capacity work, and in CrossFit too, aerobic capacity work to improve their WODs, to improve their conditioning for fighting. So I think now the science is starting to get a little bit more around the communities, and people are starting to actually put that into play. And that's really what makes the difference. Like when I train Jarzinho, a lot of the times we do our explosive stuff, our power, then we do like we talked about, remember? And then we'll do our weightlifting or our strength training basically. And then we'll go into aerobic capacity building because he's going to get plenty of work on his anaerobic system when he does his sparring and his jiu-jitsu. But how often is he going to row for 35 minutes or ride the bike for 45 minutes or run for 45 minutes? It's not going to happen too much. And I think that's what really separates him when it comes to his cardio from a lot of the other fighters. So how did you feel once you started incorporating that training as a distance runner? Did you notice any improvements?
It makes sense everything you said too, because when I go for a run, like a lot of time when I go for a run, I don't want to go for a run, but a mile or two in, then I'm warmed up, and it's like, okay, I can go forever. And if you run distances, sometimes it might take 3 or 4 miles to really hit that stride. But it's definitely made a difference in terms of I try to focus on two, if I'm doing distance running, to do the shorter sprint work and to do the shorter, faster runs too, because then it's like, okay, I can just run forever at a decent pace. So that strength training, I think, has helped. And I think deadlifts, my understanding of deadlifts, it's always you're generating more force off the ground. So that little incremental change that you have, if you're building stronger legs, you're going to spring off the ground quicker, and it's going to be less strain on your body to make you move quicker. And over a long, long run, if being a distance runner, you're going to burn less calories and be more efficient with it. So that strength training has helped. But, I think we've had conversations with this before in the past. Like with my fitness, I'm kind of all over the place. Like I like distance running, but I also want to lift weights. And I want to do more jiu-jitsu and martial arts and stuff too and get strong, and you can't really do all that. So I've kind of figured out the formula that works for me for distance running. I can't run more than 30, 35 miles a week. Sometimes it's less. When it's nice out there, I like going trail running, because if I do, then my legs are shot. I can't lift the way I want to. I can't do jiu-jitsu, things like that. And on the flip side of that, if I just roll every day, multiple rounds, I'm not young like I used to be, then I can't lift weights or run either.
Well, I think the lesson there is that you need variety in your training. Everybody needs variety in their training, and they also need to focus on having moderate and low intensity days in their training too. Because I think the most important principle when it comes to training is consistency. And I see it a lot with athletes. They come in, and if they go too hard too often, they get hurt or they get burnt out. But if you have 2 or 3 days of heavyweight training, 2 or 3 days of distance running, and then 1 or 2 days of jiu-jitsu, now you're hitting all of those different energy systems. You're moving in different planes, and you're working your body to the point to where it's not exhausted, so it can still improve. The key is working hard enough to see improvements, but not working so hard that you get depreciating returns. And I think that's where the skill comes in coaching and programming. And anybody can take somebody and make them do burpees and squats and push-ups and run and jump until they're exhausted. And I see a lot of coaches do that, and they equate that to getting people in shape. But if you bring somebody in off the street who had a long day at work, they had a stressful day in traffic, they were up late, they get bad sleep, and then you put them through a hard workout, now you're creating more stress in their life, which leads to disease. Stress leads to disease. So what do we got to do as coaches and athletes and people in general? We got to figure out how to balance our training, our nutrition, our sleep, our stress management, having a good time, traveling, work, so that you continue to get better, you continue to develop, not just smash people into the ground so they get injured and so they get sick. And I think that's where the paradigm shift needs to begin. And it's cool to see people in the industry starting to finally understand that. I've noticed a big shift in, maybe it's just the accounts that I follow, but social media, a lot more people talking about breath work, a lot more people talking about meditation, a lot more people talking about stress management. And I think that is what this industry has been missing over the last 10 years. I equate training to fire, right? You got to have fire in your life. But what does fire do? If it burns too long, it burns out. So you got to have a balance of fire and water. And that's where I look at meditation and recovery. For me, that's the water you need in your life too. It's the yin and the yang. Life is about duality. So you got to have a little bit of both in your training. But we're so good at exercising. We're so good at running 40 miles, rolling 4 days a week, lifting weights. When's the last time you sat down and didn't do anything for 20 minutes?
I try to meditate. I used to be in the habit of doing that every day. It's one of the things I want to incorporate back into my life. So the easiest way for me to do it is put headphones on, and I like to lay down so I'm not moving around trying to sit, in a meditative position.
I
just
don't
can't do
sit
that.
either.
I'll lay down and I'll set an alarm in case I fall asleep, and I'll try to do a guided meditation for 20 minutes, and that really helps me.
Nice.
It helps me calm down. But you're talking about coaching or fitness. One of the things I've always tried to do when I've traveled, visited different gyms, I try to look for the older dudes that are in shape and be like, hey, what's your secret? And the most common answer I get is always do something every day. Like, you can't run, lift. If you can't lift, run. If you can't do either one of those, meditate, get
Stretch.
a massage, use the sauna, stretch, do yoga. So I don't know where I heard this before, but I posted about it on my personal Instagram page one time too. I call it the 10% rule, where it's like you should devote 10% of every day.
I see that post. I've seen it a couple times that you've
10%
done.
10% of every day, and I really believe this, which is 2 hours and 24 minutes of every day dedicated to your mind, body, and soul, and fitness, or whatever it might be. And some people say, well, that might be a lot. Well, if you go do CrossFit or a workout, that's 60 minutes right there, followed by maybe 20 minutes of stretching. And if you do 20 minutes of meditation, it could be an ice bath. It could
Read
be
a book,
sauna.
too.
It could be reading a book, listening to a podcast. There's a number of different things. But if you spend 2 hours, 24 minutes, 10% of every day on your mind, body, and soul, you lead to a better life. And it doesn't have to be that amount every day. Some days it might be an hour. Some days it might be 3 or 4 hours if you're running a marathon or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's just helped me stay focused and healthy, and just building up the habits. And this is a reminder too with the meditations. There's a lot of apps that they have out there every day, but like sitting there with a still mind. Even, Matt, being a fighter, if he sees me stressed out because we're business partners, we have the gym and the coffee company, he'll say, go meditate, bro. He'll say that to me.
No wonder he's fighting at 40.
Yeah, and he's not a guy who's gone out and partied or anything, but every once in a while he might have a beer or drink.
You mean
or
he's not
something.
Nick and Nate Diaz?
Yeah, he's not out there.
You partied with them, right?
Well, Nick's a friend of mine. I don't want to say anything bad about him. Met Nate before.
No, it's not
but
bad.
Nick's, yeah,
They party.
They'll have a good time.
Yeah.
But they're not like they're not out doing hard drugs or anything.
Nah,
like
they
that.
do their thing.
They're good guys. I think Nick's probably one of the most misunderstood guys too.
Yeah.
Because he's actually a really great person with a kind heart. But like anybody, you cross them or you do something to piss off their friends or family, they're not going to be your friend.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he's a very misunderstood person, and he's a very loyal person too. He just has a lot of people following him around. All the
Those
time.
guys are the real deal, man.
Yeah.
Those guys are some of the best, not only MMA fighters, but just fun to follow, fun to watch. They're the real deal. They don't bullshit. And you don't see that a lot on online anymore.
Yeah,
everybody's virtual signaling now. They're like, oh, I'm following this and I'm following that because now everybody else is doing it. You don't see people sticking to their values anymore. And that's one thing that I wanted to bring up with you today, because I've noticed you've been getting censored on Instagram.
Yeah, anybody that wants to follow my personal Instagram page, obviously we have the gym page and the coffee company pages. My personal page is private, so I know who follows me, and I post ridiculous memes all the time.
Funny.
And
I love
pretty
your
much
memes
80%
are
of it,
some of my favorite
80% of
memes.
it is just jokes not to be taken seriously, and it's pretty obvious what it is. And every once in a while I'll throw in like a quote or some puppies or tattoos.
Lots of puppies, lots of quotes.
Some guns or something like that.
Yeah.
It's I got censored for one of the ones that got censored. It was a fake text message, I think, where it was a daughter texting a mom saying something about men are stupid, and she replied something along the lines of it. Well, yeah, your father forgot to wear a condom, and that's why you're here. And so the Facebook community guidelines and Instagram censored this and said it was hate speech because I called men stupid. So then I screenshotted that and posted that saying, well, I'm a man. I called men stupid. This is obviously a joke. How did I get censored? And they censored that too.
Wow.
And then every once in a while I'll post a joke and people get offended and send me a message that I know. I'm like, look, we're
Unfollow
friends, but
me.
if you don't like it, unfollow me. That's why the
Right.
page is private.
Right.
If anybody wants to request me, if I don't know who it is, I don't want them to follow me because there's weird people out there. But if
Sure.
somebody sends me a message, hey, I'm a friend of a friend and you want to follow me, I'll let them follow me.
Yeah.
I think you sent me a message, hey, some people I know from the gym want to follow. Like I think Daniel followed me.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I share your memes with people that I think can understand them and enjoy them. So sometimes they're unavailable because they don't follow you. So I just tell them to follow
they can follow
you.
me, send me a message.
And that's Stand Up
screenshot it.
Flynn, right?
Yeah, at Stand Up Flynn.
Because you used to do stand up comedy, right?
Yeah, I did it I remember counting 150 nights of doing sets. Did it for about a year and a half. The reason I had to stop doing it is because I was in corporate America, and most of the things I like to talk about on stage were inappropriate or crazy stories from the crazy things I used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
You know,
So
like-
tell us about the corporate America a little bit.
So
Tell us about the evolution of Connor.
Well, when we met years ago, it was at Team Noguera when Daniel was the jiu-jitsu coach there at MMA Masters, and I wanted to train to fight, but I kept getting injured, and then I would just go out party and chase girls all the time.
Yeah.
So I had to
Which
step
is
away
not the
from that.
fighter lifestyle.
No, it doesn't. The two don't go hand in hand. Like, you got to be dedicated.
Yeah.
And I wasn't
Right.
to MMA. But I worked back then in the investment world, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch at the end. I was there during the financial crisis telling people what to do with money. And I was this guy in his mid-20s. I'm like, why are they even listening to me? But people wouldn't take my advice, even though it was the right advice.
Which was what at the time?
Well, I would try to give people, diversification, investments, but people always want to. It reminds me of what's going on today. So everybody wants to pick individual stocks and be an expert and trade options and do the hottest thing. So I think it was maybe Warren Buffett or somebody says, be fearful when everyone's greedy and greedy when everyone's fearful. And it reminds me of the financial crisis when that hit of what's going on today, because everybody's just making money. It's free money. And
Yeah, you got to sell
and
greed
things-
and buy fear.
Exactly. So I was doing that, and then I went back to grad school at FIU, got my MBA there. I started working on a second master's in accounting, and then started a couple businesses with a former client of mine when I was in the investment space. And we were making great money for a while, but we were kind of cash poor because we just kept reinvesting all the money back in the business. And
Which
I
is a
wasn't
good idea
passionate about-
sometimes.
Yeah, but it also went against everything I was taught in grad school.
Right.
So if we have one accounting error,
Well,
we don't
Jeff
get paid
Bezos
on time.
did that.
Yeah, we have one accounting error, and we don't get paid on time. We're kind of fucked. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're just gonna, then you're out of
And
business.
what was the business?
So that one business in particular, we did a lot of work with PLCs, programmable logic controllers, and servo motors. So it was computer components that ran manufacturing equipment. So there's a company based out of Brazil that we were involved with, and we were bringing them here to Miami. So we'd buy, sell, and repair these. And we're actually opening a facility out in the warehouse district by the airport. And we were going to bring all these engineers there that knew how to work on these things. To give you an idea, like, it could be as small as my fist or the size of this table. And these things sell for ridiculous amounts of money, but if you can fix them, you can sell. They're very easy fixable if you have the right engineers. You can sell them, refurbish them, and everything like that. So there's a big company that was doing this in Brazil that we had a partnership with, and they already had contracts with like Pirelli tires, Coca-Cola, Siemens, et cetera. So we're bringing it here, and then it was still the financial crisis. Funding got pulled, and we're sitting on this warehouse. Well, let's just start our own company. So we started doing that. That was one of them. We also brokered some agricultural commodity trade deals, all these different things, which kind of tied into coffee later. But I was really never passionate about it. You know what I mean? So
So you were
when-
making money, but you weren't passionate.
making money on paper, but never really enjoying too much of it.
Right.
Still having a good time. It's Miami, chasing girls around, whatever. But then all that didn't work out, right?
Are you
So
still chasing girls around?
I have a girlfriend now.
I have a girlfriend
Yeah,
now.
so
I hope she doesn't watch
She
this.
watches this. Yeah. No, I'm taken. I'm happy. She lived in Miami for 15 years. She doesn't live here right now. So
Nice.
that's another story. I don't want to bore people to death with those details.
Well, I just think it's relevant because I feel like when people aren't fulfilled with what they're doing, they do chase girls around. They do party because they're looking for something else.
Oh,
So at that stage of your life, you not being fulfilled by what you do might have led you to doing those other things too. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know? And it's when you find that passion in your life, which we both have found in our lives, we don't really want to party anymore. I feel like when I come to the gym, I'm partying. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm mixing it up. I'm having a good time. I'm dancing. I'm singing, and that gives me energy to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and do it all over again. And that passion has because I used to be that guy. I mean, I was the firefighter, I was the MMA fighter, and I was still out partying. You know, because neither one of those things were really fulfilling what I was trying to do. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my values were. I didn't know enough. I didn't have enough knowledge and understanding to create wisdom. So I think that whole journey for me, which led me to finding my passion, was one, feeling empty, living for the weekend. And two, it was reading and learning about money and learning about assets and learning about investing and learning about the dollar, learning about fiat currency and how it debases over time. It's like people don't understand that the dollars that are sitting in your bank that you're saving are going down in value. You're losing purchasing power all the time. And then, like you were saying, investing, putting your money in diverse assets that are going to generate money over time and maintain purchasing power is what really got me to open the gym, because I said I need an asset. So what kind of asset can I create? Well, I might as well. What do I love to do? I love to work out. I would work out every day. If I was a billionaire or a millionaire, well, millionaire is not a lot of money anymore. If I was a billionaire or a multimillionaire,
You'd still be doing the same thing.
I'd be doing this.
Yeah, we've had these conversations before too.
Yeah.
It's like what you're talking about too, like chasing the girls around, filling that void. Yeah, like 10, 12 years ago, you could find me at Club Live or one of these places partying all the time. You are trying to fill that void. And what makes my relationship now work with my girlfriend, and we'd been on and off for years, is she's this businesswoman that I admire so much. So we both understand how busy we are, and we can talk about business and these things, and we have some of the same kind of struggles and goals and things like that.
Right.
But you're talking about doing the things that you're passionate about too, like in talking about investing. I think one of the things that people fail to realize, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, of investments don't need to just be like money or real estate or businesses. You need to invest in yourself, right? So I was having this conversation, like, I haven't used a Whoop strap before, but I decided, hey, I'm going to get one because I want to
just
be
got one 2 days ago.
Yeah, me too. I just put this on 2 days ago. So
Well, mine didn't come yet. I just ordered it.
The whole reason why, and I got to get the bicep
Whoop
sleeve.
strap plug.
Yeah, give us another free month. The whole reason I want to do it is so it's a good investment in tracking my fitness goals and calories I'm burning while doing jujitsu and sleep and things like that. Because I've had a Garmin running watch forever, but it doesn't necessarily I can't wear that doing jujitsu.
No.
I can't wear it lifting weights all the time or doing other things.
And plus, I mean, for me at least, all that stuff is important, like calories and all that stuff. But more important to me is my recovery. Because if I know my recovery and I can see it with a number, I know what to do that day. If I know I'm not recovered, that I didn't sleep,
Yeah, take it easy.
I'm not going to go out and hit it hard and then screw up my recovery again. So getting that insight, like you said, investing in yourself is going to allow you to continue to develop on the right path. Because I think it's all about development is really the key to happiness, is continuing to grow as a person. If you're not growing as a person, you're remaining stagnant, and then everything is in motion. We're made up of atoms. Atoms are in motion. The earth goes around the sun, the earth moves itself, and the sun goes around the galaxy. So where we're at in space right now, where we're at in space right now, it's a meditation joke, is different than it was 10 minutes ago, than when we started this conversation. And when you realize that life is motion, life is fluid, then you begin to realize that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, And how do you move forward? Invest in yourself, just like you were saying.
Whoop strap or a book or, people are always afraid. Like, you see all the memes online all the time. They post like people are going to go spend $200 drinking at a bar in Miami, but they won't spend $100, $200 on joining a gym or doing their personal training or massage or whatever it is. That's an investment in yourself that people need to do. And those are the best investments, because if you don't, and you mentioned recovery, people ask all the time about fitness things to me. I don't consider myself an expert by any means. I try to collect as much data as possible and do what works for me. But it all starts with sleep, right? If I don't sleep enough, I'm more likely to not eat right, and I'm more likely to not exercise or get injured. And I'm not able to be as productive in the workplace.
Big time.
So I know, and hopefully this helps even more, I know that I need to get adequate sleep. I can't function on less than 6 hours sleep. For me specifically.
That's unhealthy.
For me,
Even
I need at least 7, a lot of time 8 or 9 hours, and I feel great.
Yeah, you'd be a freaking beast at 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, I
That'd
try
be
to
nice.
sleep 8 or 9 hours, and everybody, like, you wake up real early. My girlfriend wakes up really early. I've always been a night person. So for me, like, when I wake up, which is late for a lot of people, sometimes 8, 9 o'clock, but I don't go to bed a lot of the time till 12, 1, 2 o'clock.
Right.
So I'm at our gym doing work when it's quiet on the coffee company or handling gym stuff, and then I might go ride a stationary bike for a while as recovery or just be up working.
Well, this is the thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because working at night is what keeps you up. You need to set boundaries in your day. And I just talked to one of my clients about this today. She's a businesswoman. She's always working. So you get home, and because your mind is staying active, it doesn't have that off switch telling you that it's time to go to bed. So I think what people need to start doing, especially night owls like you, is developing a routine that when you get home, you do a certain amount of things that allow your body to know you're going to sleep. So my routine is I usually get home around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I want to be asleep by 9:30. So I'm going to eat dinner with my family, put the phone away. Yesterday I picked it up, and my wife and my son looked at me, and I was like, I don't need to send this message now. I'll talk to that person tomorrow. So I put my phone to the side, even though I forget half the things that I mean to do. Because there's so much things going on, you just forget, you know? Put my phone to the side, eat my dinner, straight into the shower, right? You might have some pillow talk with your wife if you're lucky and she's in the mood. Or you might just shower, floss, and then I'm not doing TV right now because I don't need any more light in my eyes. And I
only watch TV or movies when I travel, really, unless it's fights or sports. I never watch it.
So then I'll read, right? Now I'm developing myself again. And when I'm
But you
reading,
get locked into reading, that can keep you awake too.
well, it depends on what you're reading. So I don't try to read
Something very boring to put you to sleep.
Exactly. I get a couple pages in, and then I'm ready to go to bed. And once you kind of give your body those signals, it responds to it. And what you need to know, and the audience needs to know, the best hours to sleep are 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Because 6 a.m. 10 to 2, you're getting growth hormone for your body. 2 to 6, you're getting a cycle your brain goes through to cleanse it of waste. So when you're sleeping, your brain cells actually shrink, and the cerebral spinal fluid goes through and cleanses your brain throughout the night. So if you don't get those hours of sleep, one, you're missing out on the growth hormone early on, which is going to help you recover and build muscle. And then two, you lose cognitive abilities. You can't download memories from what you did that day. And three, this plaque builds up in your brain that has been shown to lead to Alzheimer's. So I think what it comes down to is knowledge. So now you have knowledge about why you should be asleep by 10 o'clock.
But see, the thing is, I don't get home a lot of time till midnight.
Right.
Because I'm usually at the gym. You know, we close up maybe like 9:30, 9 o'clock. And I'm there kind of cleaning up, doing some work. It's quiet there. But when I do get home, I basically take a shower, brush my teeth, floss, and I put the phone on silent. I always have it on the night view. Like I never have the blue light on the phone turned on.
Such a good setting.
Never have it on. And then I basically make
Explain
sure
that
it's
a little
dark.
bit more, the night view.
So the blue light on your phone, you can turn on the night view so that the blue light's not disturbing your sleep. Because when you're staring at that screen, or people that watch TV, they don't get very good night's sleep because that'll keep you awake. The lights, it affects the melatonin and all the different neurotransmitters, cortisol, everything in your body. So for me, I never looking at the screen, and I make sure I get it dark. And what I've found that works for me best, I listen to a book on tape or a podcast. So I have the phone going, but I'm not looking at it, and I have the sleep timer on, and it'll help me focus on that, and I'll fall asleep listening to it. And it's almost kind of automatic. And it's gotten to the point now, that's such a built-in habit to me. If I'm taking a long drive, I can't listen to a podcast or a book on tape because I'll start to get sleepy. If I'm moving around doing physical activity, I'm okay.
Right.
But it's just built in and triggered into me. And so I found that works for me better than anything, because if I read a book, sometimes strain my eyes, keep me awake too.
So a good tip for our listeners is a setting on your phone that blocks out the blue light. The iPhones have it, right?
Yeah,
I
the
use
iPhones
it at
have
night.
it. You can go. I think I haven't done it in such a long time,
Display.
but I constantly have mine set where it's never, the blue lights are never.
It's just like a warm light. It's not a white blue light.
And I don't know if you ever noticed this. So whenever the sun goes down, like if I've ever taken long trips driving, when the sun goes down, that's when I'm most tired, and I'll pull off the road and go somewhere and get something to eat or drink a coffee, because it's triggering all those neurotransmitters in your brain, making you sleepy, and the melatonin.
Yeah, so the way your hormones work is, as it gets darker, your cortisol levels drop and your melatonin increases. And sunlight in the morning, when it's hitting you, it's telling your body that there's light hitting you, and it turns on cortisol. So cortisol is what we release when we need to wake up, or when we're in danger, or we're working out. So when you work out late at night, sometimes
it definitely keeps me awake.
Keeps you awake because it releases cortisol. So I always tell everybody, work out in the morning is optimal if you can. It's better to
do
work
it when I'm in Ohio and it's cold, like in February, and it's snowing, and I miss it down here. Like down here, it's easy. I'll get up, I'll just go outside.
Down here,
I'll go for a walk,
easy.
I'll go for a run. It's warm. I don't care if it's dark out. Up there, it's like I don't want to go outside. I only want to be outside walking to and from the car or inside a gym. Because I love running out and being outside. I can't do that there. So that's one of the reasons why it's in the summer there, I get up earlier. because it's warmer, I can go outside. But in the winter there, I'm usually doing more stuff at night. But I can stay up late because I have the benefit of being a business owner, making my own schedule. So I can stay up till 12, 1, maybe 2 o'clock and sleep till 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock some days and still be productive because I'm getting enough rest and sleep. Whereas a lot of people can't do that. When I was in the corporate world, it's like, no, I have to go to bed at a certain time. I have to be on this rigid schedule.
And I think that's what really pushed me out of having a job, is having to do anything. You know, I come here at 5 in the morning because I want to. And I gave up a 40-hour job to work a 80-hour job a week. But I love what I do because I'm always thinking about my community. I'm always thinking about health and how can I help people improve theirs. So it's like I'm never not working, but I don't feel like it's work because I love it so much.
Do you ever get members or people saying things like this, like, well, it must be nice to just hang out in a gym all day or not work very hard.
Or wear these shorts.
Or like how we're dressed. Like, I love that I can wear just gym shorts, a t-shirt half the time, you know, and but people don't realize how much work you actually put into it.
Right.
Because they just see you in the gym. They don't see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Oh, no, yeah. They don't see the stress and they don't see the dynamics of being the leader of a large community, because there's so many people that feel certain ways at certain times. It can be really demanding on you. And I've learned that I just have to continue to be myself, and I cannot change for everybody. You know, I can't be everybody for somebody different for everybody. I need to just be me. And then the people that are resonating with my message can be part of this community, and the people that don't resonate with it at the moment, it's fine, because you're not going to be for the flavor that everybody likes. And if you try to do that, you're going to dilute yourself, and you're not really going to stand out. So I think, you know, that's one of the reasons I admire what you do, because I feel like your message online is very true to who you are, and you don't see that a lot. You're always, even though you're posting it in jokes, I can tell what you believe.
Yeah, you get a sense of your humor.
Of your values.
A great way of
telling the truth.
You are telling the truth, things like that too.
Yeah.
And talking about, like, so to get back where you're talking about, like, how I got into coffee and everything, when those businesses didn't work, and I remember I was around 30 years old at the time, one of my business partners and friends, I basically lived on his couch or at his house. I had like $11 to my name. Like, here I am, this guy with an MBA and all this job experience. And
Did you have student loans?
Oh, and student loans, yeah. And I'm living basically on my friend's couch trying to figure out my life, thinking, well, I'm 30 years old. I might have to go move in with my parents. So then I went back into the corporate world, and I always had the idea of being in the corporate world. Okay, I know I'm an entrepreneur and I want to do something I'm passionate about in business, but again, I have to have that passion to start a business again before I ever do it, and I have to be sure. So I was in the corporate world for a long time, and I was on the board of directors for the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. I was on FIU's President's Council and involved with all these nonprofits, and the networking aspect of it, and being in sales in the insurance space and health and benefits, dealing with large companies and medium-sized companies. The most interesting thing was seeing how they built their business, but I hated talking about what I was doing. And I felt like I was drowning and losing myself day after day, where I couldn't. And it's taken several years to really get back to being who I am in the public and talking about it. And I still shy away from posting a lot of personal things on the coffee page or the gym page, talking about and showing who I really am to people, because it's kind of like I have PTSD from the corporate world. I'm scared to do that.
Well, you should, because nowadays anybody can cancel you.
That's another good point too.
Without understanding your evolution. You know, it's a shame that people can go back and look at who you were 10 years ago and cancel you for that, or give you a hard time for that. What, everybody just is supposed to come out of the womb knowing everything? You know, you're not supposed to learn life lessons through making mistakes and say stupid stuff. If people knew me at 18, they would probably think I was the biggest jerk off in the world, you know, because at that time, it was a different time. Things were clearly different because we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet.
Aren't you glad we didn't?
Oh, I'm super glad we didn't, you know, because my viewpoints on the world were very skewed towards negative, you know, much different than they are now, because I've gone through so many experiences. Those experiences that led me to that negative viewpoint and led me to do all those things that I did back then were life experiences. So I had to grow as a person, as a father, as a husband, and as a business owner to develop this new set of values, this new mission and this new vision, because it was all an accumulation of a lifetime of experiences. So I don't see how we can punish people for mistakes they made in the past when they're not doing that anymore. Now, if you're continually making the same mistakes, then I think that you should be held accountable. But if you made a mistake and you learned from it and you grew from it, I don't think we should be holding people accountable.
Right. There needs to be a road to redemption for people when they make mistakes too. And I love hearing about the fuck ups people have. We're allowed to cuss here, right?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. I like that. So I love hearing about when I talk to business people or successful people or listen to read books on, like I basically read nonfiction all the time. And I love business.
I still don't know what that means. I'm like, fiction, nonfiction.
Just remember not fake.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to remember it. That's
Thank
how
you.
I remember it.
I appreciate that.
Nonfiction means not fake.
Are you looking for fiction or nonfiction?
Because I feel like
science fiction.
I feel like nonfiction, there's just so many life stories that are too good to be true.
Right.
And
what's a good one that you've read that you would recommend?
Business ones. I mean, one of the ones I listened to on tape was Shoe Dog, the guy Phil Knight from Nike, because he talks about all the early days of building this company that I didn't even really realize.
What's Nike?
Yeah. But no, he doesn't talk about the crazy successful days and when they had Jordan and days. Everybody's heard that story. He talks about when he was working as an accountant. He hired his first employee. They were moving across the country. How they started out with being a blue ribbon shoes, and I love those stories, the grind of how they got to where they are.
And so what do you think, since you've read a lot of those books, what do you think is the common factor that makes all those people successful?
The passion and the drive, because he was a runner, the founder of Nike, Phil Knight, I believe is his name. Mm-hmm. He was a runner at Oregon, and he wanted better running shoes. And he started selling them on the trunk of his car, basically with a running coach. So he followed his passion, was running and shoes, right? So for me, being in the corporate world, it was, I had some friends that were involved. One of my best friends, Jimmy, his wife, her family has coffee farms in Honduras, and I was really getting into coffee, and I went with
Coffee's
them to,
the best.
So they wanted me to get involved.
My favorite drug.
Me too. They wanted me to get involved with importing green coffee because it tied into, again, in the past,
So not roasted coffee. Green?
No, but we didn't even have a plan at this time to start roasting coffee.
But what do you mean green coffee?
So coffee is actually not a bean, it's actually a seed. So it usually comes from a cherry, and it's if you crack open the cherry, I can show you a picture of it afterwards. It's got a mucilage around it, and there's this green hard seed in there.
Okay.
Right? So there's usually 2 of these inside of a cherry. Most of the time,
so they don't come
they
black.
Different colors. No. So there's different processes. There's wet processing, there's dry processing, all natural, however you want to call it. So the coffee, when it's dried and green, is actually hard. It looks almost like a little pebble. And then they put them in these giant bags called coffee bags. They seal them up and everything. That's actually the origin of the bean bag. People would, these bags are 69 kilograms, 70 kilograms most of the time on this side of the world, depending on the country, like Africa, Ethiopia, I think they're 60 kilograms. These giant bags that people lay on, that's the origin of the bean bag chair. So anyway, the coffee, when it's dried and green, it's not as much of a food product. It can be stored a year or longer depending on how it's sealed up. And then when it's roasted, that's when it becomes more of, it's cooked, more of the food process.
So the roasting, this one says dark roast.
Right.
So the bean is not dark. The roast is longer?
Yeah, it's a longer roast that's darker. Coffees, depending on how they are, when we get certain coffees we'll do sample roasting. We'll roast them several different ways. If we roast it, this degrees for this amount of time, it'll bring out this flavor. So an espresso roast for people is usually a darker roast, right? And that gives it more of a bold flavor. Lighter side is going to give more sweet, bitter sometimes.
Why does anybody drink light coffee?
Well, actually, if everything being equal, a lighter roasted coffee is going to have more caffeine. Think about it like cooking vegetables or meat. You overdo it, it's not going to be juicy and hold in as much nutrients.
I thought you were going to say cooking crack.
Yeah, that's baking soda, not powder, right? Or is it the other way?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, talking about getting back to the coffee business, so they wanted me involved with trying to import the coffee, kind of tied into what I had done in the past, trying to broker agricultural commodity trade deals. So I went with them to the SCA, the Specialty Coffee Association, these expos, and I started getting this idea in my head. Well, I really like coffee. I hear something once, it just sticks in my head. And I had this real big interest in it. And so I kind of had the idea in my head for a year or two, like, I want to start a coffee brand or start coffee roasting, not necessarily
What year was
import
this?
the coffee. It's maybe 2015, 16.
Nice.
And I started learning as much as I could about coffee and trying to figure out, well, how I can do this. And
So
I
is
kinda
coffee
put-
healthy?
Yes, but it's like anything. Like if you have shitty coffee that's, been sitting in a can, it's not fresh, it's not exactly, there's different grades of coffee and depending on there's, grade one, which is specialty grade coffee that we have, which is the upper echelon. And I could go through the lengthy process explaining all that, but I'll spare you the time right now. Simply put, it's some of the best coffees in the world that will roast. But if you have fresh roasted coffee that you brew properly, it can be very healthy for you and be very beneficial. There's a lot of great things for your health that it'll do. However, even if you take great coffee and you brew it right, roast right, if you start adding a bunch of sugar and creamers and these things that aren't healthy for you, it's not healthy. So people get that crash effect when they drink bad coffee and they add a bunch of sugar and corn syrup or whatever else is in these things, and then the crash effect.
Yeah.
But if you drink black coffee, of specialty grade coffee, it'll taste very good black, and you'll get a smooth, relaxed kind of high from it, from the caffeine. You're not going to get that crash effect later.
Yeah, I deal with a lot of people that tell me they're fasting, and then I'll say, okay, well, what do you have in the morning? Oh, I have coffee with sugar. It's like, you're not fasting. As soon as you add sugar to the element, now you're releasing insulin. Now your blood sugar is elevated. And it's so hard for people to drink black coffee. Maybe it's because the coffee they're drinking isn't high grade enough and it doesn't taste good.
The number one compliment we always get with a lot of the coffees is, wow, this tastes good black. Well, if you're drinking good coffee, it will be. Like if you smell our beans versus Folgers.
I've noticed the difference in the smell for sure.
So we roast everything like our Ethiopian, which is the birthplace of coffee. That's a lighter roasted one. Has a very almost tea-like taste to it. Very light, sweeter. I actually like drinking that one a lot. Ethiopia, Kenya.
You just like the caffeine, bro.
I like the caffeine. We do like our cold brew, like you've had the nitro cold brew.
Oh yeah, I had to get it out of here because all we did was drink it.
Yeah.
I was drinking coffee all day.
So even when I go over to like Goat Shed has our coffee over there, I walk in the one day and Awesome, the coach there, one of the fighters, is like, man, this guy thinks your coffee's too strong. And one of the Cuban guys said, your coffee too strong, my friend. I cannot drink your coffee. I'm like, you drink Cuban coffee. He's like, it's too strong. Cannot do it.
Well, is Cuban coffee actually strong or is it just sweet?
It's just really concentrated. So actually, it's like we do a Cuban style coffee too, and that's our darkest roast. It's really extra dark roast, and it's like the beans are oily, real oily, and everything. But
I like that.
I don't like the taste of it because it's really dark roast. So it takes the flavor out of it, but people love that taste. And when you make Cuban coffee too, it's just so concentrated, right? You're using very little water for a lot of coffee. Most of the time you make Cuban coffee, or you're doing it in like the mocha pot, and then they whip up, sugar in it and everything too. So you're getting intense, caffeinated coffee with a lot of sugar, so it's going to really jack you up. And a lot of the time, the beans they'll use for it, it's like a blend, and they'll have Robusta beans, which is a species of coffee that tends to have 2.5 times the content of Arabica beans. So most people you hear say, well, there's two species of coffee. There's Cafe Canefera, which is Robusta, which originates in West Africa, and there's Cafe Arabica, which originates in Ethiopia, Kenya area, East Africa or Ethiopia.
Thank you, Africa, for coffee.
And I know the whole history of that. We can do a whole podcast talking about the history of coffee, how it made its way around the world. But people say, oh, there's two. And then they'll say, wait, no, there's 3 types. There's Liberica, which is another one people drink. But there's actually, I think when I was at Coffee Expo, there's something like 70 different species. And then there's all these subspecies, which are varietals of coffee as well. But
So it's like there's a whole other world to coffee.
Oh, yeah. I mean, coffee's it's the most complex beverage in the world. So people talk about wine being the most complex beverage in the world.
Wine.
So wine has
It's all about the coffee.
Coffee
Team
has
coffee.
more identifiable volatile aromatic compounds in it than wine.
And it doesn't hang you over.
It doesn't
Have
give
it in
you
the
a
morning.
hangover.
It actually improves your workout.
It's been known to increase productivity. It's actually been known to stage off Alzheimer's and diseases. Great for the liver, cognitive functioning, things like that too.
I have heard about some coffee beans having like fungus on them or something like that.
Yeah,
that
mycotoxins. You'll hear about that.
mycotoxins.
So,
Yeah,
like,
tell us a little bit about that.
Dave Asprey from
Bulletproof.
would talk about that for a long time. So I've listened to Joe Rogan's podcast since the very early days.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
I'm not
Mr.
familiar with Joe Rogan.
The pothead cage.
Does he have a
fighting
good? Does he have a
comedian
good
commentator.
podcast?
Yeah. So he would have like Tate Fletcher on there from Caveman Coffee. I met Tate before, nice guy.
He's like the guy that's in every movie, right?
Yeah, him and Keith Jardine's in there, his business partner too.
They just look
They're
scary.
just in there as like stuntmen. He's like in John Wick fighting. He's
Yeah.
like, even in.
He's like the big guy with a mustache.
He's
Yeah.
got the beard and everything. He's
Yeah.
a big dude.
Yeah. And they're fighters too, so they can
Yeah.
fuck you up.
Yeah, for sure. It's like if I see Keanu Reeves fucking them up in the movie. It's like this would not happen in real life.
But Keanu Reeves is immortal too.
Yeah,
Have you seen the painting of him back like 100 years ago?
Yeah, he might be that guy sacrificing stuff to the demons.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, he was Constantine.
Yeah.
Layers, Matrix. Hashtag
that's true.
Matrix.
It's true. So with the bulletproof, like the mycotoxin stuff, they came to find out. They would say that there's these mycotoxins in coffee, and it's bad for you and everything. And so Dave Asprey went on Rogan's podcast talking about that because he was introduced to it from Tate Fletcher. But with come to find out, then they went and tested independently a bunch of beans and found, well, there's really no mycotoxin on specialty grade coffee beans to begin with. He's using it as a marketing ploy. Then they find out that Dave Asprey was kind of full of shit on some other things he was talking about. So it's really funny how people always talk about Dave Asprey bulletproof coffee now, and I'm like, like 5-7 years ago, kind of found out that guy's using everything as a marketing ploy, and it's full of shit. Like, there's really not, if you have specialty grade coffee, there's not these mycotoxins or things on it.
I got to give it up to him though. He's a good marketer.
Oh, it's great marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got
just
like
bulletproof. That's a badass name.
you go to Whole Foods, and he was kind of one of the first people talking about like a ketogenic type diet too.
Yeah.
But also, what the guy
Fasting and
doesn't
all that
tell
stuff.
people is that guy's on Adderall or modafinil, like Provigil, Nuvigil, things like that all the time too.
That's probably not good.
Probably not good, no. But that's why he doesn't exercise. He's probably not eating a lot. And
That's
gets
true.
Things done.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given our listeners quite a bit of information. Why don't you tell them where they can find your coffee at?
So the coffee is theimmortalcoffee.com. Our gym page is immortalmartialartscenter.com. So it's the coffee, and then drinkrxcoffee.com is another one.
Can you order directly from there?
You can order directly from there, yeah. And then we have our coffee, our nitro cold brew on draft at some gyms.
Oh, cool.
Like Goat Shed Academy, Move Lift Live, where Kristen is there. They used to be here, doing
Chris
yeah,
Espinal.
yeah,
He's the man.
yeah, the movement guy.
Yeah. He's
And
cool
then
as fuck.
Downtown Strength and Conditioning CrossFit Jessica's gym, they have it there. Apple a Day Cafe at the beach, some other places too. So that's where you have the nitro cold brew. Looking to expand that.
Can I order one of those coffee bags, the 70 kilogram ones?
I mean, you don't want all that roasted. You want to have the coffee fresh, but
Oh, true.
I can get you like one of the empty bags from the roastery. So
No,
we're
no,
roasting
it's all
it
right.
in
I just
Miami.
need a lot of coffee. That's all.
But
yeah.
anytime you want it, you get the friends and family discount. So
Sweet.
everything ties in with coffee and martial arts and
Training.
yeah, like
Self-development.
We got guys fighting tonight too up in Ohio. So
Oh,
we're
nice.
Watching that on the phone.
Where are you what's the show?
Ohio Combat League. We have a couple guys in.
Nice.
We have one guy who's about to turn pro. That's pretty good.
So MMA is pretty big in Ohio, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of wrestlers. So some of the guys up there, I want to bring them down here to train eventually because they need more exposure to
Different styles?
Jiu-jitsu guys, different styles. Because a lot of the guys, we have some good strikers and good people, but they get enough exposure. That's wrestling country.
Sure.
So they can all handle. They get to a point they can handle the wrestling, but
Yeah. Then they
there's
get
good
choked
fighters.
out.
There's good fighters everywhere, but obviously I think there's a better training partners and level of competition down here. Versus
It's always good to have new partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of our guys is going to be on the next season of Ultimate Fighter too.
Oh, what's his name?
AJ Dobson.
AJ Dobson. I'll be sure to look out for him.
We got
And then Matt fights when?
Diego Lima, June 19th.
Ooh, that's a good fight. Yeah, Diego's badass too.
Yeah, he beat
Them boys are gonna
he
bang.
beat Douglas back in the day when they were younger.
Yeah. The boys are going to bang. All right, cool, man. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
And we'll definitely do it again because we can go
Talk
deep.
forever, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, bro.
Sure.